Hello, everyone, in the Embodied Leader Paradigm. Welcome to all the new members. Yay. Okay, we're live. Welcome to all the new members that we've had join this past week. I think we've had like 20 or more new members, so really excited to have you all here. And I wanted to do this live Q&A because a lot of people joined this group over the last week because you saw me talking about leaving the mental health system. I was a therapist working in the system, leaving the mental health system and building a six-figure embodiment coaching company where I get to work with people around the world and impact lives in the way that I always wanted to. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more." And so I'm like, what better way to have this conversation than to do a Q&A? And so some of you sent me questions. I've read some of your questions. So I'm going to be answering your questions today. And hopefully by the end of this Q&A, you are so clear on what your next step is and how you can start creating this for yourself. So let me pull up the questions. So the first question I'm going to be starting with is how were you able to make the transition from the system to becoming an embodiment coach? So how are you able to make this transition? So a little bit of background about me. I got my master's in dance movement therapy and counseling in 2017. And with this, it's basically a dual degree. I can become a licensed therapist, clinical mental health counselor, and I'm also a board certified dance movement therapist. So that allows me to work in the mental health system. So upon graduation, I got a job full time working in the mental health system. I was at, inpatient and outpatient psychiatric work, working with everyone and anyone in the diagnosis, people going through crisis, depression, PTSD, OCD, anxiety, suicidality, the whole thing. So I was working in the mental health system. And a little less than 2 years in, I started to really feel that this was actually not a sustainable career path. I'm like, I wanted to go into mental health because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to help people heal. I wanted to help people um, feel their emotions in a different way. I wanted to help people build a better relationship with themselves. So I was like, well, what's the way to do that? And you're told, okay, you go get the traditional degree and you go work in the traditional mental health system. So I was starting to feel that this wasn't sustainable. It's incredibly intensive work, right? Like when you're really holding space for people's emotions and traumas and triggers, it takes a lot of presence. And I could feel that, oh my gosh, doing this Monday through Friday for 8 hours a day, like, oh my gosh, I was exhausted. And then seeing that my income was always capped and I felt like I couldn't save for the things that I wanted to save for. And I just dreamed of like not being able to have an alarm clock in the morning. And I dreamed of being able to like go out to lunch on a Tuesday if I wanted to. I dreamed of being able to just like sit outside and do nothing. I dreamed of being able to like have more of my life versus feeling like I was always at work. And so for me, I made this real recognition that the system, I can't see myself doing this for another 2 years, let alone another 20, 30 years. Like if this is going to be my career, how am I going to sustain this for the next several decades? So making this transition really started with being really honest with myself and not shaming myself, going, well, I failed. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. I should be able to do this. And that's what a lot of people do is they think there's something wrong with them versus looking at the system and going, there's something wrong with the system. The system is broken. I'm not the one who's broken and just can't keep up. I am being asked to do things that are beyond most people's human capacity, especially for myself. As a human design projector, I'm a sensitive, intuitive person, so I feel things very deeply. So the transition started with recognizing that continuing my career in the system actually wasn't what I wanted. Even though that felt terrifying because, growing up in financial poverty, I always thought like get the safe job, get the safe job, get the safe job. But I had to be really honest with myself. And then I started having conversations with just different types of people. It was like the moment that I really was honest with myself and went, I want to do something else. I need to find another way of helping people that isn't in this system, that's pathologizing them and pinning them down to the floor and giving them an involuntary shot of Haldol. I'm like, there's gotta be another way to feel like I'm walking in my purpose. And through that, it was like I started attracting conversations with people who thought differently, who were doing things differently. And then through that, I found the world of coaching, which I had heard a little bit here and there about life coaching, but I didn't really know what it was. And so I started really considering this, like, what is this something I could do? Am I allowed to do this? Is this allowed? And so I started really having conversations about this and really considering it. And then I really saw like what an amazing fit this was because I'm such a creative person, I'm a passionate person, and I wanted to be able to bring that forward in my work. And it's like the system just suffocates the creativity out of you, drains it out of you, and it frowns upon creativity and innovation. So in the idea of becoming an embodiment coach, because I got my training in dance movement therapy, which is a blend of somatics and creative arts therapy. I was like, what if I could bring movement and expression and embodiment into the coaching world? So the transition for me looked like, okay, I stayed full time working in the system and I started like I remember investing in my first mentor, my first course to like teach me how do I even do this? So I'm learning on the side. I'm doing little things here and there. I'm starting my social media account. I'm having conversations with people. I'm landing my first client, all while I'm working full time. So I'm starting to build. And then it's getting to this point where it's like, okay, I have one client, I have two clients. I can see like how much more I need to build here and how much more energy I want to put into this because oh my God, like this is lighting me up. Like this feels so much more me. And so then I had to make the scary, uncomfortable decision to drop down to part-time at the mental health hospital. And then I'm like, okay, I want to supplement that income. And then I got a contract job at the VA where I could work less hours and make more per hour because I was a contractor. So I was working less hours, but my income stayed about the same, maybe a little bit less than when I was full time. And so then I had more time to build and market my work and refine my work and refine my niche and come up with my first program and really start having consultation calls and conversations with people and booking more clients. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I really feel like I'm building something here. And so I remember it was January 2020. I sent in the email to the mental health hospital that I was fully quitting. And I was shaking, I was heaving, I was sobbing, I was crying. I was terrified because this was the like one of the biggest risks I'd ever taken. But I just knew deep within like this was the next step, even though it felt terrifying. And I sent in that email being like, this is my last this is my last month working at the hospital. So I just had my contract position, which was only like 8 hours a week. And I was building and building and building and getting more clients and really refining my methodology as an embodiment coach and an embodiment practitioner. And then in March 2020, COVID hit and the contract positions all got cut at the VA. And so the universe was like, boop, that's your last safety net. It's just you and your business, baby. And ever since then, I have been full time in Healing Embodied. So it's now been 7 years doing this full time. And I have not looked back. So that's what my journey looked like. That's what my transition looked like. It wasn't like, okay, I'm just gonna quit everything. It's like, I didn't have this big financial safety net to fall back on. It was like, I remember having a conversation with my husband. I do have the privilege of, I am partnered. I was like, um, we split all the bills, and I was like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do everything that I can to continue to be able to like contribute equally financially to to our bills. And I was like, but if for some reason there's a month where I cannot contribute equally, is that okay? Are we gonna be okay? What are we gonna do? And he was like, just go for it. Like, we'll figure it out. We'll be okay. Just go for it. And I did. And it's like the first year being full time in my company, we did six figures while I was working 20 hours a week, doing work that creatively inspired me constantly, work where I was seeing real transformation happen. I got to work with clients that I absolutely loved and adored and deeply connected with. So I just want to paint the picture of my journey and what's possible and why I'm so passionate about talking about this because I cannot imagine what my life would be if I had not made this pivot and if I had not taken that leap. So the other questions besides like what are the first steps? How did you make this transition? Were in the gist of what kind of education do I get in this? Is there a certification I can get? Is a certification necessary? What certification would you recommend? So I want to talk about that piece next. So short answer to is a certification necessary in order to become an embodiment coach? No. And but having genuine skill, training, and mastery in leading embodiment work, in my opinion, is necessary. I have been a somatic professional for over 10 years now. This is very sacred work. It is not something you just kind of like wing because you are working with people's subconscious. You're working with their emotions that manifest in their body, and you need to know how to facilitate that process. So if you have zero training or expertise or practice in actually facilitating embodiment work or somatic work, I highly recommend getting trained. And when it comes to the question, is there a certification that you would recommend? There are a lot of certifications out there. Healing Embodied has one. There are a lot of certifications out there, and a huge gap that I've seen is a lot of these certifications are either self-paced, there's a lot of like digital courses that you watch on your own. The cohorts are huge. Like there's some big embodiment coaching and somatic coaching certification companies out there where it's like hundreds of people are taking it at once. So you're not getting a lot of like practical, hands-on feedback and support on your facilitation. Um, and so if you're wanting to actually have mastery and know how to confidently facilitate results as an embodiment practitioner, you want to have a certification where there is continual practice, where you are getting feedback from the facilitator. It's not just like you do it all on your own. Because what I've seen as a trainer in somatics is we'll have a student, we'll teach the theoretical concept. Like, okay, here's what we're focusing on this month. Someone will intellectually understand the theoretical concept, and maybe they can even apply it to themselves. But then when it comes to the practice classes and we're watching them implement those facilitation skills, it's like there's a huge disconnect. And they're like up in their head, or they're like, oh crap, like I don't actually know how to lead someone else through this. So it's incredibly important to get a certification or a training where there is continual practice. And another thing I see out there is like, oh, there's a weekend webinar or a 1 month certification or a 3 month certification or even a 6 month certification. And while sure, you can learn a lot of helpful things in that, again, to me, somatic and embodiment work is the most sacred work on the planet. And there's stuff that you have to embody as the facilitator, that you have to feel safe with in your own body. And then you really have to like develop the mastery through a lot of practice. So for me, it's important to have a year of training to like really, really get this. So when looking for a certification, if you want to actually be able to facilitate life-changing results for people, these are the things to look for. Now, Healing Embodied has an incredible accredited international online certification program that also has an included 5-day in-person immersive training. So this certification is called the Healing Embodied Practitioner Training Program. Through it, you become a certified Healing Embodied practitioner and accredited through the Complementary Therapist Accreditation Association. 90% of this program is hands-on. You are constantly in connection and communication with me and the co-facilitator, Sarah Rott. Cohorts are capped at 10 so that no one feels like they're getting lost in the sauce. No one feels like, oh man, I have a question, but I can't get it answered. No one feels like, am I getting this right? Everyone feels like they are getting the support and the feedback and the encouragement that they need throughout that whole year. So, and we also really focus on something that we never learned in grad school, which is the business aspect of it. If you want to create a six-figure thriving practice, where do you even start? How do you even do that? What does that even look like? How do you create a body of work that is unique to you and your unique purpose? This is something that we focus on in our certification program, which again is really lacking in a lot of certification programs. You're not just learning the skills of somatic facilitation, you're learning how to create a sustainable body of work that feels like an expression of your purpose while learning how to create a scalable practice that doesn't burn you out and uncaps your income. To me, that has been the most one of the most exciting things about starting my own embodiment coaching practice is like the sky is the freaking limit. That I get to design and build my practice in a way that is in alignment with my definition of success, my definition of financial success, my definition of freedom and fulfillment. So this is something that we really focus on in our certification program. So if you are interested in our certification program, I'm going to post the link below to book a completely free and obligation-free career vision call with me, where I'm going to help you lock into what your process would look like in creating this for yourself and see if you're a good fit for our program. So someone asks, can you share more about what you do? How and why do you decide to go down this path? So I feel like I shared a lot about how and why I decided to go down this path, but more about what I do. So when I first started my embodiment coaching practice, I really dropped into my body, felt into myself and my story. And I remember like moving my story and moving with and feeling into how has somatic work changed my life the most? What was the biggest shift, outcome? Like, what was the thing that changed my life the most when I got out of my head and really started working with my emotions and my body? And it was like, oh my gosh, my relationship. When I was in the first 2 years of my relationship, I was overthinking it constantly. Is this relationship right? Are we going to get divorced down the road? Is there someone better out there? What if I'm settling? What if, what if I'm missing a red flag? And let me tell you, I have a golden retriever husband. We've been together now for almost 12 years, married for over 8. The most present, loving, no mixed signals guy. Like, he was clear on the fact that he wanted to build a relationship with me, and he was very committed and still is to this day. And yet I was overthinking it. It was like I could not get out of my head. I was so anxious. And I was in talk therapy for a year, looping around the same questions over and over, looping through the same anxious thoughts over and over. And when I went to grad school to become a dance therapist, we had to, it was very experiential. It's like you can't take your clients somewhere you're not willing to go. And so I really was like applying this work to myself for the first time in a deep way. And things started shifting in such a big way and so quickly. And I learned like why I was overthinking. And I learned how to move with the fear and the emotions in my body and transform that fear and learn how to feel safe in my body and learn how to feel safe and trusting in relationships. And by the end of that 2 years, I had an engagement ring on my finger, ready to move across the country to go live with my partner. And again, we've had this loving, thriving relationship for the last almost 12 years. And so I really felt into, whoa, if it were not for this work, if it were not for learning how to get into my body and out of my head, I literally, I would have sabotaged the relationship. I tried breaking up with him twice. I was constantly thinking of breaking up with him. It's like, whoa, I would not have the relationship I have today. And so I started really focusing on that. So it wasn't just general embodiment coaching, it was embodiment coaching applied to this very specific situation. And again, I had the training. I had already been working for years in the mental health system. I had the training and knowing how to facilitate really profound somatic work with other people. And so I was like, what if I could combine my unique story with the skills that I have as a somatic facilitator? I wonder if there's other people who experience this too. So I started talking about my story online, sharing like what went on inside of me and sharing what shifted and how I thought if I could just think long enough and find the right answer and figure it out that I would feel certain and secure in my relationship, but that certainty and security never came. But it happened when I finally got into my body. And the response was overwhelming. And again, within the first full year of being full time as an embodiment coach, I did 6 figures and hired my first team member who has been with me ever since, Sarah Rott. She's the co-creator of our certification program. So I really focused on helping a particular person in a particular situation achieve a particular desire, which was I want to feel secure in my relationship. I'm overthinking it to death. I'm overthinking it constantly. I've tried all the things. I've tried talk therapy for 5, 10 years. I've listened to all the podcasts. I've read all the blogs. I've done all the things. I've done yoga. I've done meditation. How do I get out of this maddening loop? And so we worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. We've been to client weddings. We've celebrated the birth of children, people moving in together with their partners, people feeling finally secure in their relationship. So that's what we did and we continue to do. We still have services that provide that. And through that process, we realized that we were doing something different. Sarah and I are both board certified dance movement therapists, but we realized like we're not really doing dance therapy. It's not like what we learned in grad school. Like while that's the foundation of it, we're doing something else. It's not just a clinical modality. We've created this coaching framework, this embodiment coaching framework that's very unique to us, that integrates creativity and parts work and trauma-informed work and shadow work and play and expression. Like we're doing something really unique here. And we'd have clients ask us like, how did you get into this? Where did you learn to do this? Like I've been to so many therapists and like no one has helped me shift things in this way. And so we realized, oh my God, we have our own methodology here. We have our own coaching methodology. And we ended up applying for accreditation in 2023 and getting accredited. And so this is a huge part of what we've been helping mental health professionals with is learning a really profound coaching methodology that they can apply to their purpose. So this kind of leads me into the next set of questions that sounded something like, what are the differences between traditional clinical work and embodiment coaching? And this is a great question. So traditional clinical work is typically medical necessity. You're working with mental illness, diagnosis, and often crisis, or ongoing challenges or mental health struggles. And you're working within a clinical framework, CBT, DBT. You're using clinical assessment tools applied to a clinical treatment plan that often has to um, be approved, that treatment plan and protocols have to be approved by insurance. So typically traditional clinical work, especially in the West, is very much involved with um, analyzing the mind. Let's look at your cognitive distortions. Let's look at why you're thinking the way that you're thinking. Let's reframe that. Let's assess. Let's analyze. Let's talk about. We have these tools, we have these skills, we have these worksheets, a lot of symptom management and coping skills. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things. And they can only take someone so far. I think many people, they need these things. That's where I started. I started in talk therapy. It was um, really enlightening for me to understand like what was going on, understand myself conceptually because I was so confused as like why I was so anxious. It might even be analyzing trauma, doing trauma processing when someone is feeling very actively in that state. Maybe they're dealing with nightmares or really intense triggers. So traditional clinical work is for mental illness, crisis, ongoing mental health support, where there is not like a beginning and an end. While there are treatment goals and insurance limits how much they'll fucking pay for, typically mental health support is ongoing. Or there's a step down in acuity. Maybe someone is admitted inpatient, they go outpatient, then they go to someone's private practice to see their therapist ongoing, and there's more maintenance. Coaching, and especially embodiment coaching, it could not be more different. It could not be more different. First of all, embodiment coaching specifically is focused on how what someone is experiencing in their body is impacting how they're showing up in a particular area of their life. And you are supporting people with a particular and short-term goal or desire or outcome or challenge. So again, going back to the example of we help people feel more secure in their relationships, to quiet the overthinking, to feel more secure and be able to take that next step in their relationship. Now, were there clients that we saw that also had a therapist? Absolutely, because they were processing some things. They wanted to have those more clinical coping skills, the clinical assessment. They were working maybe with a particular diagnosis, but when they came to work with us, they were specifically focused on creating more security in their relationship so that they could take that next step. Maybe it was moving in together, engagement. Maybe they were having a lot of overthinking around engagement or marriage or starting a family. So it was a particular challenge and goal and outcome. And coaching is in a limited time framework, uh, typically. So we would have a 3-month program or a 6-month program. So people could learn a set of skills and tools and ways of working toward this goal while working with their body. The other thing I love about our embodiment coaching framework is that it really centers creativity. Rather than diagnosis, pathologizing, analysis, it's helping people feel their emotions in a different way and channel those difficult emotions into creative expression. And when they can channel their emotions into creative expression through movement, through dance, through sound, through just outward expression, something begins to transform in their relationship to that emotion. Rather than that emotion being a hindrance to achieving their goals in their relationship, they actually learn how to work with it in a way that gets them closer to their goals. So embodiment coaching, it does not follow a traditional clinical framework. There's no diagnosis. We are not working with people in crisis. We're very specific in our marketing and particular in our consultation process. If I really feel like someone is a better fit for therapy, I would refer them to see a therapist. Again, some people have both therapists and coaching, but they are very different. So, along with this, as someone who was a therapist, I also have legal contracts. This goes with the question about legal, ethical, and licensing requirements to consider. So, I had contracts. I remember I met with a lawyer to create my contracts because, right, there is ethical responsibilities and requirements. And so my contracts laid out the fact that this is my training and education, but you're not receiving psychoanalysis, you're not receiving a diagnosis. This is not clinical treatment. It was very clear the scope of practice. And this is something that we really talk about in our embodiment coaching certification program. We talk about scope of practice so that you're very clear on what you're doing as a coach. You're not just, okay, let me just be a therapist, but now I'm just going to be a coach. It's what is your scope of practice? What is the specificity of who you're serving and the scope of who you're serving and how you're serving them? So for me, I decided that I did not want to be practicing as a therapist anymore. I transitioned completely into coaching and I have not looked back. We do have students who have graduated from our practitioner training program, from our certification, that do both. And we specifically have partnered with someone who specializes in that. And she has offered us her contracts. We have a class inside of our certification program where she specifically, Carly Hill, she talks about how do you do both? How do you legally and ethically cover yourself? She has a whole process. And so we do walk our students through that process. And we have students who have a private practice as a licensed mental health counselor, and they have embodiment coaching offers. So you can do both. There is a way to legally and ethically do both of those things. Or if you're like me and you're like, I don't really want to stay in the system, you can do this full time. You can do this full time, and the sky is the freaking limit. And I am never looking back. So, how do you balance both? Right, that depends on the person. You know, how much time do you want to spend in clinical work versus how much time do you want to spend in coaching? Not mixing the two. Again, we go over this in our certification program. Um, what are the education routes when conducting online or in-person coaching for somatic work? So what I love about our education path is that it is internationally accredited. So that means you can use this certification anywhere. We are an online international embodiment coaching company. We have clients all around the world, Mexico, UK, Canada, Spain, Australia, I mean, everywhere in the US. I have a client in Sweden. I mean, truly all around the world. So that's the beauty of having an internationally accredited certification is you have that backing behind you and can practice anywhere, which I love that freedom and that flexibility. I know the red tape and the bureaucracy of the mental health system, it's like even if you're doing telehealth, that client has to be in state. And if they move out of state, you just can't see them anymore. And it just feels really difficult to provide the kind of support that you want to provide for people when it's like, okay, I'm limited to the state. So that's the beauty of an international coaching certification program like the one that we offer. And that's what allows you to practice online, right? Like you're not limited to whoever lives in state. You can practice online, in person. Again, the majority of our work is online, but we do have in-person training retreats for our students. We're actually doing an in-person somatic retreat next month at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. So you get to design this in the way that you want. If you're like, I love, 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 I thrive off in-person work, you can build your coaching practice completely in person. If you want a hybrid, you can have hybrid. If you want to do online so that you have location freedom, you can freaking do that. Like that's you get to create your definition of success and you get to create your practice around who you are versus trying to squeeze yourself into a system that it feels like you're like this and or you're like a bird with clipped wings or you're a caged bird. Like this is what gives you the freedom to have the kind of impact that you want to have in the way that feels sustainable to you and lights you up and creates the kind of financial resources that you desire to create. It is absolutely possible to make six figures doing this. Again, I did it in my first year. I had no business or marketing background or experience before. I literally trained to be a therapist for 6 years and then worked as a therapist for two. So I was a mental health professional and student for 8 years. I had no marketing background, no marketing training, but I learned how. I learned the skills and I applied them consistently. And we did a million in revenue in just in serving clients who wanted to stop overthinking their relationships and feel more secure. Working with thousands of clients around the globe, over 2,000 clients. And now we have an online international coaching certification program where we've done multi six figures with that. So I the reason why this is so important for me to talk about is I hear you. I've been having conversations with you, with mental health professionals who are so gifted, who have so much love in their hearts, who really want to make a difference in people's lives. Like you are some of the most brilliant, good-hearted people on the planet, and I'm watching the system suck the life out of you. You feel drained at the end of the day. You feel like you have no creative freedom. You feel like you're severed. It's like you're one person when you're at work, and you feel like another person when you're outside of work. You feel like you have to play this role that doesn't feel authentic to you. You thought you were going into this to help people, and then the very system that says you're going to help people, it like makes it hard for you to even be whole and well yourself. I have had dozens and dozens of conversations with you all about this. And I was you. And Sarah was you. She thought she had to quit altogether and just become a secretary. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I'm so freaking glad I found this path and I carved this path. And now I've created the training and education for this path that bridges the mental health clinical world and the coaching world. As someone who has the clinical experience and expertise and knows that world, and also has been a coach for 7 years and gotten people life-changing results over and over and over. I want you to know that this is possible. If this is something that's been tugging on your heart, if this has been something that you've been interested in, if you love working in the system, this is probably not for you. But if you're like, I don't love working in the system, I want to make a bigger impact. I want to be more creative in my work. I want to have more financial flexibility and freedom. I want to have more work-life balance. I want to feel like I'm a person, I'm a human in my work. I want to bring creativity. I want to bring movement and yoga and like I want to bring my gifts into the space. I want you to hear that that's not a pipe dream. That that is the blueprint written on your freaking soul saying, go out and create this. I really believe that desire is creative impulse. So, and the longer we suppress creative impulse, the less alive we feel. So when you have creative impulse, like a desire, and you actually honor that and follow that and find a way to move that creative impulse into real action, your aliveness, your creativity just keeps compounding. And that makes you so much better at what you do. The world needs more people who feel alive, who feel creative, who feel connected to source, who feel inspired, who feel whole. To me, the greatest thing that I can give my clients is to be the embodiment of the very thing that I'm trying to help them with versus lighting myself on fire to keep other people warm. So if this is speaking to you and you want to talk with me one-on-one directly, I'm going to open up some spots in the next week or so for you to just book a 30-minute call with me. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if this is the path for you, and let's see if you're the right fit for our certification program. So we're taking 10 students this round. We started in 2027. We only have 7 spots left. And if this is the right fit for you and you follow that creative impulse and you do this, you actually get started right away in a pre-training. So you don't have to wait till 2027 to start the embodiment coaching training. We're going to start with helping you get clear on your purpose. So who you're here to serve in the same way that I focused on helping people with overthinking and anxiety in their relationships and helping them feel secure. Who are you here to serve? What is your story? How can you deepen your own embodiment and apply this work to yourself so that you can lead others with embodiment, so you can feel how this work is changing you, because that's going to impact how you serve and who you serve. So we get started with that right away. You also get to experience the healing embodied methodology of embodiment coaching for yourself as a client, because I think that makes a massive difference in how you lead others through those difficult moments, is when you are actually walking the walk and living what you teach. So if you enroll, then you get started right away. So while it's usually 12 months of training, if you start now, let's say September, October, November, December, you get an extra 4 months of training at no extra cost. So we're really excited to see how this cohort is forming. In our current cohort that we're leading, we have a yoga instructor who wants to become an embodiment coach. We have someone who started the clinical training and realized, oh, no, no, I do not want to work in that traditional clinical system, is on her path to becoming an embodiment coach. We have someone who has done so much of her own somatic healing with her anxiety that she wants to learn how to help others through embodiment. We've had dance therapists, we've had clinical therapists, we've had um, doctors go through this program. So we're just really excited to see how this cohort forms and who continues to join over the next several months as we're getting ready to start. So I will post a link below to book that free call with me, and we'll have a conversation about how you can build a career beyond the system as an embodiment coach. I really believe that embodiment coaching is the future. People want somatics. People are seeing the limitations with talk only and cognitive only and mindset only approaches, because we're not just a floating head in a jar. We're a body, and this body holds so many emotions and experiences and beliefs and stories that we don't always see. So this is how you work with the whole person in a really holistic way, which allows them to get better results. So book that call with me below. I'm so happy that you're in this community. I can't wait to build this new paradigm of people who are leading their work from embodiment, who are lit up, who are serving from overflow and aliveness and creativity and wholeness. I'm just so excited to see what we're all going to create together. Thanks so much for being here.